So when we examine the implementation of this liquid glass, it becomes apparent that Apple's alterations in software design go beyond mere aesthetic shifts. They are, in fact, contemplating the trajectory of future hardware developments. Hello everyone, Aaron here. A very large number of people are expressing a great deal of interest in the total transformation of the iPhone, as well as the MacBook and Vision OS, all of which are being completely reimagined with this new liquid glass design. Some folks are expressing disappointment, feeling it's merely a cosmetic design update, while numerous others contend this is a significant strategic maneuver setting the stage for what's to come. By any chance, are you familiar with the phrase Glasswing? It's the code name for the completely revamped iPhone coming next year, marking its 20th anniversary. With the strong predictions that this exciting new Glasswing concept will be fully incorporated into the next generation of iPhones, there is a significant and growing amount of interest in understanding precisely what hardware changes and innovations might be introduced. Therefore, in this session, we will take some time to speculate and explore how the liquid glass design philosophy and the Glasswing concept are likely to evolve and ultimately merge together in the future. So, without further ado, let's proceed and delve into this topic. Significant overall changes for its 10th anniversary, but this time around the biggest change is this thing that's being called liquid glass. You can kind of think of it as an interface that has been created by melting down glass, giving it that really fluid back and forth kind of motion that you are seeing right there. The core concept is to integrate the transparency of glass throughout, into all elements like buttons, and to implement that kind of movement, where the glass appears to float and move back and forth, creating a sense of fluidity. I've gone ahead and updated to the developer operating system version, and while I've done that, sometimes it just doesn't work out quite as well as I'd like it to. I really wanted to revert back to the original, but honestly, it's just so incredibly beautiful, I really can't bring myself to change it. Furthermore, just like observing objects submerged in water, the direction of light and how elements reposition themselves is immediately reflected. This provides visual effects such as the refraction of light or the seamless integration of background content when tools are gathered, allowing for a fluid and physically responsive interface and visual effects. The key is this interface and visual effect were implemented, but there's debate if it needs more computing. I'm quite curious about this myself, and if we delve into the specifics of the liquid glass information provided on the official Apple developer website, it explicitly states that the fundamental principle behind this liquid glass is a digital metamaterial meticulously designed to shape and manipulate light. The operating system has been consistently updated over time, but in the past it typically used pre-rendered textures to represent specific materials. However, this time they've introduced and utilized a brand new digital material that has the capability to dynamically refract and bend light while also shaping and forming elements, similar to the dynamic island feature found on the iPhone, which exhibits that fluid moving sensation. It's predicted that the design process might have started around that time. So, those fluid dynamic movements that you see, and also the very immersive interface of Vision OS, these design elements, I believe, are showcasing a step in the continuing evolution of Apple's design legacy, and on top of that, there's the notable lens effect. Just like a real-world lens refracts light, these UI elements are expressed and rendered in a similar manner. And furthermore, it's not just about the visual representation, it's about the fact that it actually takes in and responds to the effects of light and the tilting from the sensors, allowing these things to react instantly in 3D, which is a truly fascinating aspect of it. If you look closely, you can see that this is made up of multiple layers. Since it's comprised of a number of layers, it's capable of more effectively conveying a sense of depth along with shading effects, and these elements are designed to react to the physical motion of the device, which allows a specific layer to shift, thereby creating the impression that the user interface is actually present within a physical space. And if you look at that, it really gives the impression of a real lens effect, like there's an actual lens there. To make each of those individual effects work, the hardware needs to process and render the data, so there's always some computing happening in the background to handle that. However, the fact that this is even possible is something that you could perhaps interpret as a testament to Apple Silicon's capabilities and confidence. Honestly, when you look at it in detail like that, it expresses all those lens effects so very meticulously that it has to calculate everything in real time, for instance using something like the iPhone's photonic engine to operate quite efficiently, which is actually a part that's not easy at all for Android to follow. Of course, it's not entirely impossible, but Apple has its own custom-designed chips already in place, and on top of that, they are creating a very closed system by closely integrating the operating system as well. Given that, for this liquid glass to be rendered in real time, dynamically refracting and reflecting, it would necessitate a tremendous amount of computation. However, one could predict that there might be areas where optimization could be achieved through efficient scheduling at the operating system level. Because Apple Silicon is inherently designed for low power consumption, and they are actively optimizing it both in terms of hardware and software specifically for their own operating system, it's undeniable that they hold a significant advantage over other platforms. So, on the other hand, I personally speculate that older Intel mobile-based Macs probably won't be able to support these kinds of features. This way, when a menu appears, you can maintain your concentration on the application you are currently utilizing, thereby significantly enhancing the overall user experience. Furthermore, as expected, in order to facilitate the adoption of this new liquid glass design, developers will be provided with comprehensive support for the Swift UI framework, which will undoubtedly simplify the process of creating layered icons and various other graphical elements. Many people are already downloading the operating system and developing with it. Sliders will be implemented like this, and segmented controls will work this way. There are a great many different aspects to consider, and numerous developers are already looking into how they might best present their applications or arrange various elements and icons. Before, things were just laid out, but now it's much cleaner and neater, looking more straightforward and polished, right? Based on all of that, we can expect that a great many people are currently working on development. Anyway, Apple, in their case, provides integrated development tools such as Swift UI and Icon Composer. Because if Apple truly wants to maintain a unified device experience, then developers really need to adopt these graphic user interfaces and build upon them, and that is exactly what Apple is hoping for. So, developers will use this for iPhone, Mac, Apple Watch, and eventually Vision OS. They are also able to consistently apply the liquid glass design by utilizing Swift UI. And Swift UI is quite unique, often called a declarative UI framework. Create a button right here, then change its color. Instead of telling it to create a button and move it here, the system automatically knows there's a button of this shape in this spot. So you don't have to worry about the complexity of calculations due to this liquid glass because Apple has already handled it, making it easier for developers and designers to design and develop, as if they're saying, we've done this part so you can just take it from here. And this liquid glass is actually the precursor operating system for the iPhone codenamed Glasswing, which is set to be released next year for the iPhone's 20th anniversary. Since this is actually targeting the form that will be applied starting with iOS 26, there's a lot of anticipation building up. So what kind of hardware changes can we expect to see in the iPhone? Now, if you look carefully at the current rendered images, you'll notice it clearly features curved edges. So it has a body that's curved across the entire front surface and is made out of glass. So it's predicted that the front, back, and sides of the phone will all be wrapped in one continuous piece of curved glass. This means it will completely transform from the current flat and sharp-edged design to a sleek, pebble-like feel, and with that, it might support a perfect full-screen display. This suggests we could potentially see a design with almost no bezels present whatsoever. As you can see clearly, the notch is completely gone now, and even the dynamic island isn't visible at all. So what does that imply? It most likely means the camera will be an under-display camera, commonly known as UDC, which is essentially a camera module situated directly beneath the display panel itself. I have an old video about under-display camera technology in Xiaomi phones, so if you're interested, check it out. It's a tough technology to implement. Currently, UDC technology still exhibits that mosquito net effect, which is somewhat disappointing, but I'm really looking forward to seeing how they'll manage to resolve this particular issue. Anyway, with UDC, since it's located beneath the display, the amount of light it can receive is a factor in how much the front image quality can be corrected, and how much image degradation can be prevented in dark areas. These things need to be well resolved to meet expectations. To make up for the reduced light, it will be necessary to have such computing ability that can make corrections based on AI algorithms when receiving images with less light. Well, Apple's already quite strong in computing, so I believe they can handle this sufficiently with the iPhone. However, I'm curious about the overall user experience. And even though the rendering image quality here is rather low, this OLED display with all four edges bending, it'll probably be provided by Samsung Display. While we have seen edge designs in the past, the manufacturing process for such display panels demands incredibly precise thermal forming and advanced control technology, and given that the iPhone is the world's most widely sold phone, ensuring uniformity across all units will be a significant challenge. Display companies produce separate displays that match Apple's specifications, so display factories are built exclusively for Apple. Using that tech for Galaxy or others, impossible. Separately, Apple also designs many aspects of the display, so I am really looking forward to seeing what else they come up with for the iPhone. Now, personally, I'm quite skeptical about this rumor, but there is talk that the battery will be made of pure silicon. What exactly does that mean? For batteries, the anode usually employs graphite, but lately they're incorporating up to 10% silicon to increase battery capacity, particularly Chinese firms. Yet this presents dangers like swelling problems. Because silicon can store 10 times more lithium ions than graphite, it can swell up and expand much more. Considering it can swell up to 400%, I think using pure silicon might be a bit too much. But you can top up with silicon to a point, boosting capacity a lot. This is kind of the trend in smartphones, and we have to follow it. I have covered silicon batteries and anode materials in many videos, so check those out. So when we consider the application of this liquid glass design, it becomes quite evident that Apple's software design alterations are not solely driven by changes in aesthetic preference. Instead, it appears they are strategically making these changes with a clear vision of how their future hardware will develop and progress. Back with iOS 7's flat design, they initially actually introduced a very simple and flat design to enhance the visibility of information on devices such as the Apple Watch and the larger iPhone 6 screens that were subsequently released. And then, when they unveiled it and showed it off like that, looking at this liquid glass alone, you might think, oh, they just changed the design. Some folks might dismiss it as just a design change, but if the Glasswing works as expected next year and the synergy between these elements really comes together, it could be truly amazing. I'm really hoping it does. Beat from Omokyo Electronics Market was invited to the Apple event. Beat was interviewed in my last video, and he summarized it on his Omokyo Electronics Market channel, showing insights that the ultimate goal is spatial computing, and that's what they're aiming for. And it's possible to anticipate that this operating system is being developed with the future Apple Glass in consideration. Because in order to fully achieve spatial computing, it's absolutely essential to properly apply the effects of light to truly generate those three-dimensional volumetric effects, feelings, and interactions, and it's particularly fascinating that they've integrated this across all of their operating systems, even going so far as to unify them all under version 26. So, with semi-transparent windows, the content positioned behind them can convey a sense of being located somewhat further away. If a shadow is present, it allows for the understanding that something might be obscured or hidden from view. People already familiar with the Apple ecosystem's user interface will gradually get used to it, and then when a new device comes out, bam! When it comes out, people will be like, wow, that feeling, if I put this on, it'll be totally awesome. Vision Pro will be even more upgraded, so yes, those are some exciting aspects to look forward to. And this time, actually attending the UDC event in person was even more impressive, and I believe they were trying to implement something before it transitions to actual devices. And that made me consider those aspects more, and the foundation for that is Apple Silicon, which is providing robust support. Does this imply the battery can sustain the necessary computing power for that operating system running in the background? Or might they need to substantially enhance the battery's capacity by integrating a greater proportion of silicon anode material to support such demands? I'm really looking forward to seeing how this develops, and will be sure to keep you updated on all the details as they emerge. This has been an error reporting from Apple Park.